Chapter 21. They were immediately outside the tower. They could see the group basking in the sun. "Are we last?" she asked Grade. "It was worth it if we are," Grade answered, more relaxed than she had ever seen him. "How is everyone?" she asked as they approached. "And are we last?" she asked, smiling. "No. Hal and Roan are still in there," Callady said, almost reverently. "Everyone had a partner in there, right?" she asked. They all nodded. "Oh, so Hal and Roan are partners." "We weren't sure, but now we are," Tide answered. No one said anything for a few minutes. Grade surprised her by breaking the silence. "That was rough." They all nodded solemnly. "But a good rough," he said with an exhale. That started the comments, and as she watched them, she learned how hard things were for everyone, even in Wisteria. "I always want to be nice," Callady confided. "It does make my heart happy. After my mom died, I didn't have anyone to talk to, and now I see how resentful I was for giving all the time, but not for having anyone to help me." Maeve reached over and squeezed Callady's hand. "I hate that my sister is so hurt," Boyle spoke next. "I felt so helpless, and that somehow I was letting her down by not being with her. She made me promise to keep going, but I didn't know if I should have." Lyda and Callady put their hand on his shoulder and then laughed to see what the other had done. "I am a twin," Lyda smiled. "I guess there's no escaping it. It's hard, though, being your own person when it seems everyone wants you to be a certain way. I am realizing it's okay to be me." "I was with Lyda," Pud said quietly, "and I don't want to say anything except I'm glad I got you." Lyda's eyes filled with tears. "I'm really glad I got you, Pud." "It's hard feeling stupid," Saul said with emotion. "You just feel so worthless when you try so hard and you don't get it, especially when your whole family is known for being really smart." Maeve looked surprised. "Saul, I didn't know you felt that way. I'm sorry. I would gladly trade. You make people feel important. I never know what to say like you do." Saul blinked back tears. "I guess that's one positive for feeling dumb. You know how others feel." "I'm not good at this," Golf said quickly, "so I'll just say I'm glad I'm here." "We're glad you're here too, Golf," Maeve smiled sincerely. "See, Maeve?" Saul teased. "You're getting it." "Golf was my partner," Maeve said, embarrassed, and he helped me a lot." "And you helped me," Golf said steadily. "I'm sorry, Maeve and Golf. I shouldn't have teased you," Saul said humbly. "I didn't know we were all bearing our souls today," Tide said. "I thought that part was over, so I didn't prepare a speech. I will say, I didn't know you could know someone your whole life and miss how hard things are for them, that they make look easy. For all you nosy people, Saul was my partner, and I can promise you he's not dumb." "I think Tide is talking about himself," Saul said. "I, too, didn't know all he carries behind his jokes. I hope he will let me help him carry some of it." "You already have," Tide answered. "I don't want to be done," Saul said sincerely. She felt like she was in the cave and never wanted to leave. Small groups of conversations began again, and she felt her mind peacefully wander. Thinking about her mother's pendant, she wanted to know what the symbol meant. "Cal," she whispered, not sure why she felt so vulnerable. "Yeah, Tilly," Callady responded softly. "What does Wistera's symbol mean?" "The Queen painted it when her daughters didn't come home. It's a bird. At the top is an eye, and the swirl represents her tears running to the bottom, which is a nest. The broken heart is the wings. She uses her sorrow to learn to fly." "Oh, that's sad." "My mom said to focus on the wings, not the broken heart." Page break. They're coming, Maeve said as they turned to look. Roan had his arm supportively around Hal and almost carried him. They sat in the open spot in the circle. Everyone could tell that Hal had had a hard time. So they continued bantering with each other, giving him time to sort out his feelings. She looked at Roan, casually sitting with everyone while keeping his arm around Hal. She smiled, knowing Roan was back. When they decided to start on the path again, Hal surprised them by talking. I want you all to know that Hal told me about my doorknob becoming a large ruby. I fully plan on taking it later. I will have to work out the details of luring one of you into my tower door so I can have the bigger one. I just don't need it weighing me down right now. So don't think that means it's available. It is not. Everyone roared with laughter. Everyone that promises to leave Hal's ruby alone and all the other jewels until we get back, say aye, Tide proposed loudly. A chorus of ayes made everyone laugh. Hal was back too. Page break. They were surprised to see Akish waiting for them on the path. She was next to a row of boxes they assumed would be the next challenge. You have done well, and do not need this challenge. I am here to take you to the next one. They followed Akish down the path. I'm okay with skipping the spiders, Tide said and shuddered. Maybe it wasn't spiders, Lyda offered. Thinking of the underground box, he said, I am okay with skipping all the boxes. What about the in case of emergency box? Lyda pressed. Okay, fine. Let's go back and collect all of the in case of emergency boxes, he laughed. Akish led them to what looked like the water basin from the sorting. This may look familiar, Akish remarked. You are no longer 3 separate teams. You are one. Each year, the groups are represented by different colors. The amounts from each time affect the shade. Please place your sashes in the water. They had mostly white sashes in the water, but the water became purple with the 3 blue sashes and the 2 red ones. Come, claim your gift. She beckoned and gestured for them to reach their hand in. Hal was first, and as he reached his hand in, they watched the scrapes on his face disappear and a light twirl around him. Do you see that? She asked Halliday. I do. The tiredness of the venture seemed to disappear from each of them as they stuck their hand in the water. She felt content and peaceful when it was her turn, as if all her worries were washed away. You have 2 more days until the Somna moon will pass, Akish said. 2? Roan asked. Don't we have 3? The binding was the first day. The fire braids were the second. The gray path was yesterday, and the inner circle started today, right? Akish smiled. The inner circle started yesterday. You passed 1 day in the tower. Everyone was surprised. So, how are we ahead of time enough to pass the box challenge if we lost a day? Tide asked. Time moves differently in the inner circle, and it wasn't a matter of time that brought you here now. You have 1 more challenge before tomorrow, when you must decide if you are continuing. She left them with many questions unanswered. No wonder she gave us the healing water. She felt bad for not letting us sleep or eat, Hal announced dramatically. Look what else she gave you, Halliday pointed to Hal's pendant. We all have one, Maeve announced gleefully. She looked down to see the pendant Akish had given them. Seeing the symbol again, she thought of the tears, broken heart, and wings. Wings. She knew her mother had made it there, and looking at the wisteria symbol, she felt close to her mother. Maybe she had been in the same place they were in now. There was a calmness in knowing they had both made it that far. It's over here, Hal beckoned for everyone to come. Oh, Hal, Tide laughed. I heard you, Hal yelled back. Good, Tide laughed. 12 stones lay in a large circle in the grass. Simple enough? Roan asked, a little leery. They all went to stand on one. Nothing happened. Same order as the tower? Halliday asked. I don't want to go back in the tower, Hal said. It sucks your life away and your time. Are you glad you did it? Golf surprised them by asking. Sure, Hal said. They got in the order they had entered the tower, but still nothing. By age? Halliday offered. Still nothing. I don't know if this is a dumb idea, but what if one of us is supposed to go in the middle while the others stay out? Saul suggested nervously. I think that is a great idea, Maeve said excitedly, and those in the circle will feel our support. Let's try it. If it does work, how will we know who should go first and in what order to follow? Tide asked. Should we just see if it works first, or should we make a plan? Saul asked, feeling self-conscious. Let's make a plan for it like it's going to work, Maeve said positively. I liked how our team decided at the box challenge, Lyda suggested. How? Boyle asked. We held our hands behind our back, the order number we wanted, and then we showed our hands. But because there are a lot more of us, what if we all go to the middle and then walk to the spot we feel we should be? If people want the same stone, we can discuss it. Let's try it, Rowan agreed. The red rock can be rock 1, and we can go clockwise from there. Gathering in the middle of the circle, she knew it would work. She was nervous, trying to decide what place she should choose. She considered the middle, which felt safer than going towards the end, just in case it all came down to her. She thought of Larsh. Should she try and protect the others? Should she go for the 9th spot? Hard, but not the hardest? If she waited till everyone chose, she could just take what was left. The more she considered, the more she realized she liked that idea, as it gave everyone their first choice. Have we decided? Rowan asked. Yes, everyone said. Anyone not ready? Rowan asked. Silence. Okay, let's go. Good luck, Rowan said. Hal sprinted to the red rock. A couple of people quickly worked out their order, having tried to get to the same spot. The 11th and 12th spots were open. She turned to see who else hadn't chosen. Grade was behind her. He spoke quietly so only she could hear. I knew you would wait. Which one do you want? Whichever one you don't want. He smiled. I knew you would say that, but I will wait until you choose. Hurry up, we're waiting, Hal hollered. I would prefer you to go last, as I don't want all the pressure on me, but I think I am supposed to go last. She knew it was right as she said it, but she wanted to call it back. Grade smiled. I'm glad. He walked to the 11th stone. She took a deep breath and took her place at the 12th. Looking at the group, she felt a surge of strength. Each would do all in their power to support each other. Hal looked surprisingly somber as he walked to the middle. As soon as he entered the middle, he was enveloped in a tunnel of light. He started to run. They knew he was in a different dimension. He was running in terror. They could see his facial expressions, though they could not hear his shouts. He was fighting something. They could see what was probably a sword in his right hand. Over and over he swung his right hand. They watched helplessly as his left shoulder jerked back. He was hurt. He fell to his knees. Roan ran toward Hal, but was unable to penetrate the tunnel of light. He tried again, but his efforts were useless. He banged frantically on the tunnel. We have to help him, Roan yelled. He has suffered enough. Hal was trying to get back up. He fell again. Please, Roan yelled. Please. He has only known pain. Please let me fight for him. Hal was on the ground, writhing in pain. Roan ran at the tunnel of light, but his efforts only knocked him down. She knew there had to be a way to beat it, but watching Hal suffer made her mind blank. Please, please help us. Call Roan back. Roan was kneeling helplessly in front of the tunnel. Roan, come back, she yelled, not knowing how it would help or what they would do. Roan hesitantly went to the 9th spot and looked at her helplessly. Clear your mind. Clear your mind, she said, hearing the next instructions. When your mind is clear, you can share your gift with him. Hal was seizing in pain. She looked at the others. Horror or grief etched on their faces. Please, she commanded. Clear your minds. Send him your gift. She looked at Grade. His face was calm and focused. Grade's breathing was deep and full. It was as if she could see a light coming from him and going to Hal. Lyda had the same light coming from her, as did Callady and Boyle. Hal staggered to his knees. He stood shakily. He raised his right hand and swung it. He was so weak, he stumbled again. She could see the light coming from everyone in varying degrees. She focused on sending Hal her gift. What would her compass do in a fight? She could feel the fear coming to attack her. She tried to focus, but it felt too desperate. Her thoughts were turning on her. Fear clawed at her. Hal fell again. Enough. She was tired of fear and its vicious power. She had power too. Her compass was not her only gift. She felt the grass on her hands after the gray path, the sun after grayed sorrow, the coolness of the purple water. She saw the light in the meadow, the water flowing from her hand, the cloak covering her, and the ivy light from the binding. Hal had stood again and tried to fight, but he was so injured he could barely raise his right hand. She heard Larsh's voice come back to her. You have to stop fighting. She remembered the rats and his calm voice instructing her to stop fighting. Hal, she spoke to him, though she knew he could not hear her. Stop fighting. She spoke loud enough for all to hear. Hal, stop fighting. Calady began to sing. When the wind is calling, and you know that you must go, when the mountains mark the path for you to follow, don't look to your shadow. It has nothing for thee, for the road to your future is just beginning. Fear not where the answers lie. They will come by and by. Fear not where the answers lie. They will come by and by. So reach until your reaching protects you when you fall, and answer for yourself the call of Khaled's call. Khalady's singing was soothing, and their tears of worry changed to tears of awakening. They could see Hal's fight for what it was. They could see he had chosen the sword for his gift at the binding. The scars on his back told why. The gift he had chosen to protect himself was now the very gift that was hurting him. Hal was exhausted. They could not see his blood, but they knew he had been cut many times. His head was bowed, his arms by his side. He raised his hands above his head, as if pointing his sword at the sky. Then dropping to his knee, he drove his hands to the ground. The tunnel of light flared and went out. Gasps of relief and words of praise flooded him. He kept his head down as he walked back to his place. Slowly he raised his head, a look of majesty in his regal eyes. Calady walked calmly to the middle. The tunnel of light engulfed her. She bowed her head and opened her hands to her side. Immediately the tunnel flared, and she walked out. Whispers of disbelief came from those who did not understand. Boyle walked steadily forward with a similar result. Golf looked worried and confused. "It's okay, Golf," Maeve said, starting to understand. "We will help you." Golf walked to the middle, where the light surrounded him. His hands pulled behind him. He fought to separate them. His legs drew together as if pulled, and he fell. Struggling on the ground, he thrashed around, trying to free himself. "Don't fight," Maeve called to him. Looking around, she could see the light from each of them. Not sure if he had tired out or if he understood, Golf stopped struggling. Rising, he walked out, beaming. He had been successful. Maeve walked forward. She walked into the tunnel of light. It radiated brightly back at them. Maeve was done. She beamed radiantly. Tide hesitated for a moment before walking boldly forward. Upon entering, he bowed his head and held his arms to the side. He flinched, but quickly recovered. He, too, was done. Lyda giggled as she went to the center. Throwing her head back and smiling, she seemed to be absorbing the light. She left, signaling it was Saul's turn. Saul seemed a little worried, but smiled in understanding before stepping into the center. He was done. Roan went in and immediately fell on one knee, as if paying tribute to Hal's experience. He, too, was finished. Pud seemed to be the most confused upon entering. They could see him looking for something. He searched and searched. He grew frantic in his searching. "It's okay, Pud," Lyda called out. knowing he couldn't hear her. Pud, you already have it. You already have it. Pud stopped. He stood still for a long time, and then was able to walk out. Grade smiled at her before walking forward. He walked comfortably into the center. She felt invigorated as he stepped out. She knew what she needed to do, but as she stepped into the center, she felt alone and lost. She forced herself to acknowledge she was not alone or lost, but knew she was lying. She was lost. She was alone. She could not find her way. She knew she only had to stop fighting the fear of not knowing, but it overwhelmed her. How was she supposed to know where to go or what to do? Everything seemed to get dark. She saw a light far away, and she ran to it. It kept getting farther the more she ran. Upset, she stopped. Why did it have to be so hard? She was tired and needed to rest. She lay down, too overwhelmed to know what to do. Stupid choices, stupid expectations. She thought she had gotten past those feelings. Why had she thought she could do it? Why had the others made it look so easy? She felt foolish and ashamed. She didn't want to leave and face the others. She had no reason to be so weak. Why was she? She groaned, thinking she had been so prideful as to go last. How pathetic. Everyone else had done their part. Most of them made it look easy, and a couple of them even seemed to be giving something while they were in there. Grade had had it so much worse, and he had been so fast. If only it affected her alone, she wouldn't care that she failed, but it affected the others, and she hated that she couldn't face it. Laying in her misery, she wished she had not come, that she had stayed in the cave and never gone to the mountain. She would never have met Larsh, Callady, or the others, but that didn't matter. Perhaps they were better off without her. She did feel bad that they wouldn't be able to progress. It wouldn't have mattered where she was on the stones. She was sure she would have failed, but being last did make it worse because the others had hope. Would they eventually leave? Don't look to your shadow. It has nothing for thee. The words to Khaled's call came to her as if she could hear Callady singing them. Shame engulfed her as she pictured Callady singing to her as she had for Hal. Why? Why was it so humiliating to know she could be singing for her? It was so inspiring when Callady sang it for Hal, but Hal was fighting, and he was so hurt, and she was just being weak. Are you not hurting, little one? As she heard him, her heart cried out for him. She missed him. She needed him. Yes, she cried desperately. Yes, I am hurting. Let them help you. She couldn't. She felt so foolish and embarrassed to need their help on something so simple. You let Larsh help you. That's because of the rats. I was so terrified. Are you not afraid now? I am just being weak. You are not weak, little one. But I am. I just can't do it. And it was so easy for the others, but it's so hard for me. You do not know what the others are dealing with. But I watched them. I could see them, and they did so well. You saw what they showed. It's too heavy. You're right. It is too heavy. She was glad she no longer needed to worry she would disappoint him. He knew now. She thought of Aneth. She remembered the comment she had made about being an oddity. She understood that feeling. Some parts of her weren't like the others, and it took so much energy just to keep them from being seen. It exhausted her. What had happened to Aneth and Audie? Was the row of boxes where they were burned and blinded? She felt sad for them and their pain. More lyrics came to her mind. So reach until your reaching protects you when you fall. What did that even mean? She was wasting their time, and she cringed to think they could see her lying pathetically on the ground. I'm sorry, Aneth. You tried to tell me not to do this, but I just don't know how not to. I can't face them now. I don't even have a good reason to have failed. She smelled lavender. Surprised, she breathed it in deeply. She remembered it was Audie's favorite. The only song he sang more was the one he wrote for me, she heard Anna say on the morning of the binding. And answer for yourself the call of Khaled's call. She heard Khaledi again as the smell of lavender increased. Audie. That was Audie's song Khaledi was singing. He wrote it for Aneth in memory of those she would never see again. No one had come from Khaled since Aneth. They did not speak of Wisteria and Khaled, so no one knew to come. None of them knew her story. None of them would have the choice to answer their own call. Khaled. Why had he called it Khaled's call instead of Aneth's or Wisteria? It wasn't Khaled calling, but Khaled had been called. They all had. The people of Khaled had just chosen not to hear it. Aneth had. She had risked everything to respond. Poor Aneth. She, too, knew the burden of feeling like a burden. What do you have to be ashamed of, little one? I don't know. It's as if the shame has claimed me. Can you give it to me? No. Why would I do that? I don't want you to have my shame. Nor I you. But it's mine. No, little one, it is not. Yes, you are, she heard herself saying to Roan, but not for the choices of others. Understanding flooded her. She had carried the shame of others for so long that she had thought it was hers. She did not need to carry it any longer. You won't keep it, will you? No, little one. It won't hurt anybody else, will it? No. How do I give it to you? She asked as she sat up. Just let go and hand it to me. Take what I give you. She hesitated, not liking that he was taking something bad and giving something good. Little one, do you trust me? Yes. Your answers will come by and by. She could feel him smiling as she knew how much he loved layered meanings. Knowing why she hesitated, he said, I promise it will only bring me joy. Relieved, she looked inside herself. Handfuls of sludge seemed to come from everywhere. Over and over she placed the disgusting sludge into his hands. She loved being able to see his hands again. When the sludge hit his hands, it disappeared. Her sludge kept coming. It was exhausting and exhilarating to pull it out of herself. Are you ready to receive what I wish to give you? It will help remove the sludge and keep it from coming back. Please. She felt the gift come into her as she removed the sludge. She reached forward to give him more sludge and watched the black sludge turn clear as it poured from her hand. She heard him laugh. Oh, how she missed that laugh. She knew they had done it. You're not leaving, are you? Never.